When I'm here with Sydney, she is currently in the program, the Embodied Goddess Sisterhood, and she's going to share a little bit about her experience today and what shifts have happened, what it's like really inside the program, inside the sisterhood. So welcome, Sydney. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. So my first question for you, love, is why did you decide to join the Embodied Goddess Sisterhood program? What was it that was going on in your life at the time that you felt like you needed some extra support, or that sisterhood was a good idea, or what intrigued you about the goddess archetypes that we would be studying together? How did you know it was the right fit for you?
Well, first of all, I know that sisterhood is always a good idea. And I was just feeling like some big changes were about to happen and that I would need some support in one, making them happen, and two, just some guidance in checking in with myself and working with these archetypes to really feel and discuss and make it happen what I wanted. So
Beautiful.
that would be why.
What were some of the changes that, just so the other ladies listening can kind of relate and see if this is something that would serve them well? What were some of the changes at the time, if you remember, back in like March or April, or sorry, February, before the program began? What were some of the things coming up for you?
Considering a big move out of state was the number one thing. And also finding some direction in like passion areas of my life, such as yoga, and finding support in chasing those dreams as well.
Beautiful. Thank you. How would you explain to people who have never heard of this or never done this work what a goddess archetype is, now that you've had the experience of working with a few of them?
So basically, to me, what the goddess archetype is playing with an idea for the month. So you kind of draw that presence into your frame of mind for a whole entire month, whether that's, creating, or like the dreamer weaver was like weaving the dream. So for that month, that's where you focus your attention and you draw aspects of that goddess archetype into your presence. So hopefully a little bit more of that goddess comes into your life. And that's what I've found throughout this program.
Mm-hmm. What was your favorite goddess archetype so far, and what happened? Like, what was your experience with her energy and essence and the archetype that month?
I think it's between two. The primal goddess comes to mind first because it was the first one. She kind of influenced me to take a spontaneous trip to Asheville, North Carolina, which was really fun. Just kind of going with the flow and being in nature. Took like one of the most fun hikes that I've ever had. Just like kind of playing in the woods and just messing around, and it was really fun. So primal goddess comes to mind. Just unleashing your natural self was really an awesome time for me. And then I also love the muse because I'm a creative spirit, and taking it's this month to really focus on that creativity and reevaluating and reintroducing that into my life and my presence has been fun.
Beautiful. What did you learn from the primal goddess? Like, what really came out of that for you from that experience from the month of March?
I would say it's just that feeling of freedom, just allowing yourself just to be you without any expectations, or just having fun that way. So it's just like that feeling of like true freedom. I think the primal goddess unleashed that for me.
Beautiful. All right. And let's see, what is your favorite part of the program? Or can you just give people like a little bit of an overview of what we do each month?
Yeah. So we have weekly sister calls. So you're checking in with, I have two of my sisters every week. So it's great to weekly evaluate what's going on and have, ears to spill too, and just to discuss how the light and shadow qualities of the goddess are showing up for each of us. So it's fun to have those sisters in support every week. And then so you, Emily, you'll jump in on a call a month. So it's great to have Emily's input, and she really embodies the goddesses and teaches us how to incorporate them into our lives. So it's great to have her check in monthly with us as well. So every month you pick one light shadow quality, and one light quality and one shadow quality. And so at the beginning of the month, Emily will give a recording of all the aspects of that goddess archetype, including those qualities, and you pick which one resonates with you the most, and you kind of roll with it, and you really think about the goddess and those qualities throughout the whole month, and see how they show up for you.
Perfect. And we also do the guest Q&A calls, and we also have the intention setting call, and some other a private Facebook group and things like that throughout the month too, to keep you supported. I'd love to know, what have you really learned about yourself and the way that you were engaging with or experiencing your life prior to joining the Embodied Goddess Sisterhood and now? Like, what are the differences between the way that you show up to life and the way that you really are living? What's the difference for you?
I think that being yogi, I'm like a present person, but it's fun to focus on certain aspects. So like the goddess archetype that month, whether it's like the weaver dreamer, so you're focusing on setting things up for the future, and or primal, and your that sense of freedom. So for me personally, I'm like a present person, but it was fun to kind of enhance that even more, focusing on certain elements.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And just like bringing those different energies out of you, right? So like bringing out the primal that already lives within you, but is now able to have the space throughout the month to be expressed, and to set the intention around what that expression looks like for you, right? So like, yes, her light and shadow qualities, or her light qualities, are freedom, wild, it's very fiery and passionate and all those things, but is that part of you really being expressed every single day? Probably not. So when we give it the space to be that way, we allow that piece of us to come out and show up for us. And so we are able to navigate whatever situations or challenges or obstacles or excitement is coming up in the month ahead with that energy, and approach it and see what happens, and just be in that state of like inquiry around, what does it look like if I show up like this, in this new way that I don't normally show up? Or what does it look like for me to engage with life from this lensing and this perception and this perspective, where normally I'm operating from like one narrow viewpoint that I'm not questioning ever. I'm just showing up the same way based on my experiences and who I've been conditioned to become. But with the goddess archetypes, we're able to stretch our perception and who we really are, and what we're able to be, what's possible for us, and the ways that we can show up as a woman in the 21st century with this 360-degree lens that allows us to give space to the wild parts of us, the loving parts of us, the compassionate pieces, the creative pieces, the wise and intuitive and crony pieces, and all the different aspects of who we are as women, these like multifaceted, amazing, powerful creatures that are healers and lovers and mothers and daughters and sisters and wives and whatever other roles we might play. When we take away the external roles and labels, what's left? Like, how do we show up as our full selves? And so this is what the work really does, and what Sydney is sharing about is like, these are the pieces of her that have been able to emerge throughout our study together in the sisterhood. So,
and it was,
go ahead.
I was going to say, it was great to have the support of your sisters, because when you're evaluating how they're showing up for you, then kind of opens your eyes to see how it shows up different for everyone. And then it causes you somehow in turn to be more honest with yourself and like, okay, it's just evaluating closer.
Yeah. How have you, I'm curious, this is just like a personal question, knowing you and um, the yoga practice that you do. How has this influenced your creativity with your career, or how has it influenced the way that you show up to your yoga classes or teach or anything like
Hmm.
that? I'm curious.
Yeah, I would say in particular, the one that sticks out to me was the wise woman. And so I would be sitting in like a work setting in places where I might have like spoke up. I would just listened more. And so it's just those aspects that come into your daily life. And just because the wise woman's on your mind, like you don't even realize it sometimes. Or being more creative in my yoga classes was probably inspired by the muse. Like I like having creative flows to begin with, but this week or this month I've found myself like, being a bit more creative and fun. So yeah, they definitely show up and like bring out elements to yourself that are maybe dormant.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. And it's interesting too, because a lot of times, we as women, I think we always will look at pieces of ourselves that we're unhappy with and we'll try to fix it, right? Like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm beating myself up because I'm not this way or that way. And what the goddess archetypes allow us to do is just to be that presence of whatever it is that we
Right.
desire, and however we'd like to show up, and we just embody it, right? So we have
Yeah.
the different playlists each month and the Pinterest boards that are sort of like
Oh,
a vision
yeah, I
board.
love the playlists,
Yeah.
right?
And then you can dance to those songs and embody the energy of the muse or the
Hmm.
primal goddess or whoever, and they're all different, right? They're those
And I'm
energies
a very
are
visual person, so I love seeing the Pinterest board. Like that brings it to life
different.
to me more than anything. So yeah, it's great.
Hmm. And I think it's also right, like we get the opportunity to really embody and be the change and see what that looks like, right? To really step into
Exactly.
to leadership in a different way, that we're not trying too hard, we're just being. Like we're
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
relaxing into that more the art of like feminine receptivity and surrender and
definitely.
allowance of setting an intention and letting go of all expectation, which really
Hmm.
expectation has been coming up a lot lately in a lot of my client sessions, and just in my normal life a lot of people have been struggling really hard, and some amazing women who are just like so conscious and spiritual and evolved, and it's like the idea of expectation just really trips us up and gets us lost and confused, and like we're holding on too tightly trying to control everything and
Hmm.
creating this resistance in our lives instead of really trusting and going with the flow and being in a state of active receptivity and response instead of reaction
Yeah.
to
And
something. Yeah.
that's what's great about the goddesses, right? Because they're already inside you.
Hmm.
So it's just awakening that part. And it's not that you're negatively looking at things like, oh, I need to do this. It's like you're awakening that part. It's there already.
Hmm.
So I just love that about it too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of times we have a tendency when we think, oh, I'm broken in some way and I
Hmm.
need to be different, that
Yeah.
we have to look outside of ourselves and seek outside of ourselves to be able to find that missing.
It's not like a self-help
Yeah.
situation. It's like a self-realization
Yeah.
situation.
Right. And so the goddesses, the reason I love this work too is that it's not from a place of fixing anything. It's from a place
Yeah,
of wholeness, that
exactly.
we actually are all seeing each other as whole and unique and brilliant and amazing, just as we are,
Mm.
exactly as we're showing up vulnerably in that situation on a call or wherever. And there's never any wrong answer. It's
Exactly.
really like an inquiry and a self-discovery and not trying to fix anything. So there's not something that needs to be like wrong with you to do the work. In fact, it just is like elevating every aspect of your life by being able to be
Exactly.
more in touch with who you deeply are in your fullest expression of self. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. Let's see. Would you recommend this program to other women? And if so, who or like what kinds of women do you think would benefit from the experience?
I would definitely recommend this program. I think it is for woman that knows that she has things inside her that need to come out. Um, And I think it's a woman that believes in sisterhood, because that's like what the staple of this, right, is having the conversations, the judgment-free zone with these women. So you have to be open to that, and you have to be open to being vulnerable, because that's where the change happens, really. So it's just an open woman that is looking for something deeper, I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah, beautiful. Anything else you want to add about your experience that I didn't ask you, or anything that you want to share?
I'm just grateful for this program. I think it's done awesomely. And like I said, you know, there's not a judgment. And if you are having like time issues, there's always recordings of the Q&A that you discussed, and the intention setting call. So if you miss something, you always have the opportunity to catch up at your own time, which I really appreciate that. And I only have good things to say. It's been great so far.
Thank you, love. Thanks for being here and sharing your heart with
You're
everybody.
welcome.
And
Yeah.
ladies, if you have any questions about joining the program, please feel free to email me at emily@emilycastle.com, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.